Samuel used to say we were best friends, the forever kind. But then Samuel got a girlfriend. To help her secure a spot in the grad program, he kicked me off my own research project. I was beyond furious and went to confront him, but he just watched me with a detached look, like he was just waiting for me to finish yelling so he could apologize. In that instant, I realized how ridiculous all these years had been. Even my anger felt ridiculous. Finally, I just started laughing. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Then I stood up, clapped him on the shoulder, and said, "Samuel, we're done." Samuel and I were childhood friends. I'd known him since I was 2 or 3, back when I could barely string a sentence together. He was the most mischievous kid in the neighborhood, always getting into fights, causing trouble, and stealing the candy from my pockets. But he was also the one who wanted to hang out with me more than anyone else, because my pockets were always full of candy. So yeah, I liked Samuel. After all, he was always coming over to play. My mom liked him even more. She loved how lively he was. She always thought I was too quiet, so quiet she worried I might have autism. Thankfully, Samuel came along. Samuel and I walked a long road together. We were desk mates in elementary school, and we stayed that way for 6 years. We were never separated all the way through middle school and high school. Then, on graduation day, he found me and asked where I was thinking of applying. I hadn't decided yet and just shook my head. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The early summer breeze messed up our hair, and he gently poked me. "Ryan, let's do biology. Southwestern University, the biology program." I paused for a second, then nodded. And just like that, high school was over. After that whirlwind of a summer ended, we met again in the same major. We didn't start out in the same dorm room. He wouldn't give up, though. He pestered our academic advisor to switch rooms until, like a proud peacock who'd just won a fight, he moved his bedding to the bunk next to mine. During the first week of college, our roommates started putting up privacy curtains around their bunks. Samuel wanted one too, and after buying his, he went ahead and installed one for me. One long curtain sectioned off our 2 beds, but he left the panel between us open. His parents were away, and as fall set in, he ordered 2 comforters online. One was thin and the other was even thinner. The second it got a little chilly, he'd come over to my bunk to sleep, crawling over in his pajamas on cold winter nights. "It's cold," he'd say. "Let's squeeze in together." But those dinky little dorm beds could barely fit one 6-foot-tall guy, let alone 2. He'd just cling to me like an octopus. I have a weak heart, and sleeping on my side is even more uncomfortable. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with a start, see him there, and swallow the words I wanted to say to kick him out. In the end, I'd just sigh. My freshman year was uneventful. Then one day during sophomore year, our suite mate came looking for Samuel to skip class. He yanked open the bed curtain and shouted, "Holy crap!" I opened my eyes. Samuel had somehow crept over in his sleep and was hugging me tightly. The sudden wake-up call made my heart feel tight, and I sat up. "Get up. Someone's here for you." "Oh," Samuel mumbled, groggily climbing out of my bed. He subconsciously patted my waist as he moved. I didn't immediately process what had happened, but I had a bad feeling about it. Sure enough, a few days later, rumors started spreading around our class that we were gay. Guys would snicker whenever they saw us. The girls would whisper among themselves too. I didn't really care. I've never been the type to worry about what others think. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had only one friend for over a decade. But Samuel couldn't handle it. He was a social butterfly who loved joking around, especially with girls. He wasn't gay, and I knew that, but no one else did, and he couldn't seem to explain it away. He started sulking by himself. To avoid suspicion, he installed the curtain panel between our beds and began to avoid me. I didn't mind much. We'd had petty fights like this plenty of times when we were kids. Usually, I'd just wait for his temper to cool, and he'd forget all about it and come find me again. But this time felt different. Samuel was avoiding me everywhere. He even stopped answering my calls. I was starting to get annoyed. One night, I was working late in the lab when my heart started acting up. I leaned against the wall, feeling like I couldn't stand. I tried to call him to bring me my medication, but he didn't pick up. Eventually, An upperclassman who was passing by saw I was in trouble and helped me to the campus clinic. I guess I was a little bitter toward him then. After all, he was the only friend I had. I'm not sure when Samuel started dating her. It could have been the fall of our junior year, or maybe during our sophomore spring when the rumors were at their worst. In any case, he was avoiding me during that time and eventually even moved out of the dorm. I don't really know what happened back then until another roommate told me one day, "Hey, Ryan, did you hear? Samuel managed to snag the prettiest girl in our department." That's when I realized Samuel was in a relationship. I wasn't sad, but I wasn't happy either. I just thought, well, this is probably for the best. I kept focusing on my lab work. After that project was finished, I submitted the paper, and it was published in a top-tier global academic journal. Thanks to that paper, I easily secured a spot in the grad program. That same year, I started a second, similar research project, and I invited Samuel to join. A year had passed, and Samuel threw his arm around my shoulder enthusiastically. "Ryan, my man, I could kiss you. Get off me. You're being gross." "Wah, Ryan, you're gonna make me cry." Samuel started working with my advisor. I had recommended him. He was charismatic, a smooth talker, and talented. My advisor absolutely loved him. Thanks to my experience from the previous project, this one went exceptionally smoothly. Plus, I put his name as first author, which basically guaranteed his admission to the grad program for the year. Right after the project started, his girlfriend began visiting the lab often. She was a beautiful, gentle girl who wore a brown long skirt and a navy blue coat. Samuel introduced us. "This is Jessica, my girlfriend." I greeted her politely. "Hi." The girl smiled warmly. "It's nice to meet you, Ryan." I nodded. 3 months into the project, we were a little short-handed, and Samuel recommended his girlfriend. Jessica was a meticulous girl. Her experiments were always flawless, and her notes were the clearest and neatest. I loved the data she recorded, and my advisor agreed. She joined the team without a hitch. Having a couple in the lab was a bit much sometimes. I'd occasionally look up from my equipment and see the two of them huddled together. Sometimes the three of us would go to eat together. They'd walk ahead, getting farther and farther away. It wasn't until after he'd bought his food that Samuel would suddenly remember me and wave me over. As I got closer, I noticed a cup of orange juice next to him. He never liked stuff like that, but I did. I instinctively reached for him to pass it to me, but Samuel looked awkward. Jessica blushed. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I thought Samuel bought that for himself and I took a sip by accident." I just nodded and quietly ate my meal. I'm a slow eater. By the time they finished and cleared their trays, they were already at the door before they remembered me again, turning back to see me trailing behind. Samuel waved. "Ryan, over here." I started toward them, but they were already walking off again. That feeling of being left behind really sucks, so after that, I refused to eat with them. Samuel seemed disappointed, but Jessica just smiled. I usually brought my lunch back to the dorm to eat alone. My other 2 roommates did the same. The 3 of us weren't close, we'd each just watch our own videos while we ate. One day, I was heading back to the dorm with my food when I heard Kevin on speakerphone at the door. "Bro, let me tell you, we had this super gay couple in our room, but they broke up. One of them actually ended up with the hottest girl in our department." The guy on the other end casually asked, "What about the other one?" "The other one?" I pushed the door open and met Kevin's eyes as he was on his video call. His reply got stuck in his throat. I glanced at the man on Kevin's tablet screen and silently held up my lunchbox. "The other one is about to eat lunch." I heard the man on the tablet chuckle. He said something else and Kevin quickly hung up. Halfway through my meal, Kevin cautiously sidled up to me. "Hey, Ryan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that just now. It's fine. You're forgiven." "Huh? Oh, okay." The project entered its final stage in the fall of our senior year. We were pulling all-nighters almost every day. With a month left to go, my heart couldn't take it anymore. A checkup at the hospital revealed it was pretty serious, and the doctor forced me to be admitted for rest. Since there was only a little bit left to wrap up and submit the report at school, I wasn't too worried and just rested in the hospital. While I was there, Samuel visited a few times. When he heard I couldn't go back, he looked like he wanted to say something, but just ended up telling me my health was always fragile, and I shouldn't push myself so hard. It was time to rest. I smiled and asked him if the rest of the experiment would be okay. I only felt relieved after he nodded. It was a month and a half later when I was discharged. Samuel was too busy to come, so my roommate came to pick me up. The roommate he'd sent was Kevin. The moment Kevin saw me, he was all over the place, helping me with the discharge papers and even bringing me a new set of clothes. I looked at the suit and frowned. "Why did you bring me a suit?" Kevin looked at me, hesitating, then finally said, "My family is making me go on a blind date." I was hoping someone could come with me. I didn't say anything. Kevin's face fell. "Please, Ryan? I can't find anyone else. We're not that close with our other roommates, and this blind date is pretty important. I'm kind of scared." I was silent for a moment, then nodded. Kevin and I weren't that close, but he had come to pick me up, and I didn't want to owe him a favor. In the end, I changed into the suit. It was a white suit, and it fit surprisingly well. In fact, it looked almost custom-made. "Kevin, did you measure my clothes to get this tailored?" "Huh? No. I just asked my brother to grab one. Maybe suits are just made to fit well?" I was quiet for a while. I remembered when I graduated from high school. My mom was so happy she insisted on buying me what she called a high-end, sophisticated outfit. That day, she had me try on 16 off-the-rack suits. I'm thin with narrow shoulders and nothing fit right. The slim ones were too tight, the regular ones were too big, and the ones in between had shoulders that were too wide. In the end, my mom gritted her teeth and spent $8,000 on a custom-tailored suit for me to wear as a coming-of-age gift. But the suit I was wearing now fit even better and looked nicer than my $8,000 one. It felt strange, but I couldn't figure it out, so I just chalked it up to coincidence. I'd been roommates with Kevin for 4 years, and I always thought he was just a loudmouthed idiot. I never would have guessed he was a rich idiot. His blind date was at a massive banquet. I sat in a corner, watching the people come and go, while Kevin was surrounded by a crowd of executives in the center of the room. Kevin managed to slip out of the crowd and started running toward me, but was intercepted by another man. "Kevin, could you take a look at our project over there?" "I don't have a say in projects, Uncle. You'll have to talk to my older brother, Dylan." As he deflected, Kevin casually pointed in a direction. I followed his gesture and saw a man sitting on a sofa. I couldn't quite describe him, other than that he was dressed magnificently. His suit had subtle gold threading along the seams, understated but radiating wealth. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and very long legs. He was leaning back, looking both regal and proud. Suddenly, Dylan looked up and smiled when our eyes met. I instinctively nodded back in acknowledgement. When I looked again, Kevin had made it to my side and was pulling me up. "Come on, let's go find my brother." He dragged me over to the sofa. I sat down next to Kevin and Dylan spoke. "Kevin, Mom is waiting for you in room 401. Kevin, who was stuffing a pastry into his mouth, swallowed it in a couple of bites. "Okay, I'll go see Mom first." "Bro, can you look after Ryan for me? This is his first time here, he's probably not used to it." Kevin left, and suddenly it was just Dylan and me on the sofa. For some reason, it felt a little weird. I didn't have to look up to know that Dylan was watching me. "Do you drink?" "A little. Try this. It's not bad." He poured me a glass, the red liquid in a wine glass held out in front of me. I reached out to take it. We were a little close, and I caught a faint scent of mint from him. No one spoke for a long time. I took a sip of the wine. Finally, Dylan broke the silence. "Ryan? Yeah. The team you led is outstanding. They've had 3 papers accepted by SCI Index journals recently." He was probably talking about the latest project. I nodded. Dylan smiled. "I heard from Kevin that you were on this project too. How come I don't see your name on these 3 papers?" "I'm not the lead author. I'm the second name under the first author." "Did I misremember? I thought the second name was a girl named Jessica." I looked up, stunned. Through my glasses, I saw Dylan's faint smile as he watched my reaction with interest. "You should check your phone. It looks like your first author credit was given away as a gift to someone's girlfriend." I steadied myself, took out my phone, and quickly looked up the papers. First authors, Samuel, Jessica. Second author, Ryan. For a moment, my world went blank. This was the project I had poured a year and a half of my life into. I had monitored every single step, day and night. I had worked myself into the hospital for this project. On what grounds did Samuel give my first author credit to Jessica? He could give Jessica anything he wanted, but this was my project. This was mine. That day, I stormed out in a rage and took a cab to the lab. Samuel and Jessica were still there, working late, laughing and looking all lovey-dovey. Samuel squinted and smiled. Ryan, you're back. You, the SCI papers. Why am I the second author? Samuel was speechless for a moment before speaking in a low voice. Ryan, let me explain. The journal requires a maximum of 2 first authors. So Jessica is a first author, and I'm second? I was in charge of the entire project. I was sick, not dead. How did my project become hers and yours? Samuel flared up. Ryan, don't say that. Jessica helped a lot this year. She deserves this. If you're going to be angry with me. I looked at Samuel. He was staring at me with such hostility, shielding Jessica behind him. In that instant, my emotions hit their peak, and then, suddenly, I was calm. I thought numbly, why am I so angry? Because he's Samuel. He's my best friend. I always thought he couldn't and shouldn't do something like this. I didn't even believe the results were real. I'd come here just to find out if there had been a mistake, some kind of accident. But there was no mistake.
No accident.
Samuel had taken the thing I cared about most and given it to his girlfriend. So what does that make me? Even if I were a stranger, he had no right to take my work. Was it because I was his friend? Did he count on the fact that I wouldn't make a big deal out of it in the end? Is that why he felt he could just take my things? Did he assume I wouldn't cause a scene, that our friendship was strong enough for him to use as a gift? So that's how it is. That's how it is. The pain was so intense that I started to laugh. My heart ached, so I just squatted down and laughed. Samuel crouched down, his voice low and hoarse. Ryan, buddy, yell at me. I'm sorry, but Jessica really needs this paper to get into the grad program. You've already got your spot, so just give this chance to her. Ryan, trust me, I'll make it up to you. I'll give you anything you want in the future. I looked up at him, still smiling. Samuel, let's just leave it at this. Samuel's expression froze. What do you mean, Ryan? You're going to end our friendship over this? After all these years? Jessica is my girlfriend. You know she needs this. What's the big deal with letting her have it this one time? Samuel, if you love her so much, why don't you give her your first author spot? Ryan, you know I need it too. Disgusting. This is so disgusting, Samuel. It's fucking disgusting. Don't talk about Jessica like that. I'm talking about you. You're disgusting. It would be best if we never fucking saw each other again. I didn't have much to do in the second half of my senior year since my advisor was abroad for a research exchange. Meanwhile, Samuel was trying to apologize. He started showing up everywhere on campus, buying me lunch and casually throwing his arm around my shoulder. It made my skin crawl, but I couldn't push him away. It was like he was convinced that if he just stuck by my side long enough, I'd forgive him. After half a month of seeing him constantly, I got fed up and decided to find an internship. On the first day of the spring hiring season, I showed up for an interview in a suit, resume in hand. The moment I walked in, I saw Kevin. He greeted me warmly. Ryan, over here. I asked politely, are you here looking for a job too? He shook his head. Nah, my family's company is recruiting. My brother made me an interviewer. So much for friendship, connections are everything. Being his roommate, Kevin heard I was looking for a job and enthusiastically recommended me to his brother. Dylan asked if I had a specific job in mind. I shook my head. It's my first time working. I don't really know much. He looked at me with a smile. How about you shadow me for a while? You can learn how to manage a company. Okay, I agreed. To be honest, I'm the kind of person who goes with the flow. I don't have many strong preferences or ideas. If an option seems decent, I'll commit to it. Dylan was a good boss. He gave me a huge office and a beautiful orchid. The days that followed were a blur of reviewing contracts, traveling for business, negotiating deals, being the client, being the vendor, and planning projects. Most of the time, it was just the two of us on business trips plus a department manager or two. My boss was a bit of a penny pincher. He always tried to save on accommodation, which meant I often ended up sharing a suite with him. Sometimes it was a 2-bedroom suite, and other times it was a 1-bedroom. A 2-bedroom was easy enough to handle. But a 1-bedroom? Dylan would just say the bed was pretty big. And it was. A king-size bed. It suddenly dawned on me. After my shower, I pulled another comforter out of the closet, rolled myself up in it, and settled on the far left side of the bed. My boss looked at me. He didn't get into bed and finally couldn't help but ask, "Are you really planning to sleep here tonight? If you don't want to, you don't have to force yourself." I scratched my head. "Boss, I get it. We're both guys, we can just squeeze in. No need to waste money on another room." I drifted off into a groggy sleep. When someone wrapped their arms around me, I vaguely heard Dylan whisper in my ear with a laugh, "Yeah, I'm so rich, yet here I am, squeezing in with you." When I woke up in the morning, Dylan was right next to me. He was sleeping soundly, but he looked a bit pale up close. I could smell the faint scent of tea on him, which was surprisingly refreshing. As I got up, I realized his hand was still resting on my waist. I carefully moved it away before getting out of bed. Sweets were great. One phone call and breakfast was delivered. I was halfway through my meal when Dylan finally got up. He had somehow gotten ready and was standing behind me, his tall frame casting an imposing shadow. I turned around just in time to see him snatch a piece of toast from my plate. "Don't eat that. Go get the car ready." I wasn't full yet, but I just grunted in agreement. As I walked to the door, I saw Dylan take a bite of the half-eaten toast with one hand while holding a file with the other. When his eyes met mine, his expression didn't change. I was a little hungry. There's fresh toast on the table. Don't feel like opening a new one. My boss, the cheap, lazy jerk. Right before my first year of grad school started, I submitted my resignation. Dylan held his pen, his wrist resting on the desk. "Is your graduate advisor the same as Samuel's?" "Yes." He looked at me with interest. "You don't like him?" "No. I hate him. I arranged an exchange student spot for you at a university in DC. Our university only had 2 exchange spots. Getting one must have been incredibly difficult." I said with genuine gratitude, "Mr. Jiang, you're a lifesaver." Dylan chuckled. "Come on. I'll give you a ride back to campus." When we got there, I grabbed my suitcase and walked to the school gate. I looked back and saw that Dylan was still there. He seemed to be smoking. I thought for a moment, then walked back. Dylan held his cigarette and turned his head to look at me. "What's wrong? Forget something back at the company apartment?" "No." He leaned against the car window, his eyes gentle. "Then why come back? To say goodbye? I want to ask you a question." "Oh? Go ahead." "Dylan, are you into guys?" Dylan's lips curved into a wider smile. "Is it that obvious?" "It is." "So, are you into me?" His smile didn't waver. He looked up at me, his gaze serious. "Very much so." "Ryan, now it's my turn. You're asking all these questions. Are you about to reject me?" "No." "Then what is it, Ryan?" I thought for a moment, then pulled open the car door and gestured for him to get out. The second he was out, I grabbed his wrist. I kicked the front door shut. There, on the busy roadside, I pulled him into the back seat and kissed him. I bit his tongue, almost angrily, but he just held me tighter. One of his hands cupped the back of my head while the other snaked under my shirt, tracing my waist. In that moment, I thought dimly, thank God I pulled him into the back seat. If we'd kissed on the sidewalk, this would be way too. The car windows muffled the sounds of the outside world. Now it was just the two of us. His fingers traced my spine, and a shiver ran through me. It was too sensitive. I instinctively tried to pull back, but he just pulled me back into his arms. I rested my head on his shoulder, panting softly. "Dylan, stay away from me." "Why?" I was at a loss for words. Finally, I wrapped my arms around his neck, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Dylan, stop fucking touching my back." His gaze dropped, but I dodged his eyes. I have some self-respect, you know. What would people think if they saw us like this? Then let's kiss a little longer, babe. Are you ever going to stop? Then let's just hug for a while. Babe, I really, really like you. I've been into you ever since I saw you on that video call with Kevin. I just took one look at you and was totally hooked. He pressed me into his chest, nibbling lightly at my neck. I mumbled, lust at first sight. If it were just about your looks, I wouldn't have waited this long. I would have just drugged you and seduced you when you couldn't resist. He must drink a lot of tea. After kissing for so long, I felt like I had absorbed some of that tea scent from him. For my master's program, I was in a new dorm building. The moment I walked in, I saw Samuel sitting on his bed. It was a double room, and now it was just me and him. I frowned, thinking about getting out of the dorm and renting an apartment. But then I remembered I had the exchange program spot. I was leaving in 2 weeks, so it wasn't worth the hassle. It was only for 2 weeks. I walked into the room without a word, made my bed, and drew the privacy curtain. The graduate dorms were much more spacious, with the beds on opposite walls. Samuel watched me, looking like he wanted to say something, but my grim expression made him hesitate. Finally, he said, "My mom is coming to school in a couple of days to celebrate us getting into grad school. Please thank your aunt for me, but I won't be coming." Ryan, are you still mad? No. Then why? Oh, I just don't want to eat with you. You make me sick. Samuel's eyes suddenly turned red. What's that supposed to mean, Ryan? We've been friends for so many years. So I showed favoritism to Jessica, and for that one little thing, you're really going to cut me off? Samuel, I'm not interested in competing with Jessica for your attention. You took something that was mine and then had the nerve to blame me for being upset. It's physically nauseating. That was the first time I ever saw Samuel cry. His eyes were bloodshot as a tear rolled down his cheek. Ryan, since we were kids, I've taken so many of your things, and you never said anything like this. Why is this time so different? Because I always bought 2 of everything. The one you took was always the one I bought specifically for you. Even the author credit. Samuel froze, then grabbed my hand after a long pause. Ryan, I wasn't thinking straight. I only put you as the second author. I didn't leave your name off completely. Please forgive me. No, stay away from me. You're disgusting. Ryan, are you dating someone? His gaze fell on my neck. I looked in the mirror and saw the red marks where Dylan had bitten me. They weren't deep, but the faint, scattered marks wouldn't rub off. Samuel was completely stunned. He stared at my neck for a long time before numbly returning to his own side of the room. Dylan was busy. We only had time for occasional phone calls at night. We were both busy, so most of the time we just exchanged a few words about our day and hung up. On Friday afternoon, Dylan came to pick me up around 4. I packed my bag, but as I was about to head downstairs, Samuel nervously blocked my way. Where are you going? To spend the weekend with your girlfriend? Move. Ryan, you can't. I didn't ask why. I just repeated the word. Move. But he didn't move. He just stood there, silent. We were at a standoff. It wasn't until someone knocked on the dorm room door that Samuel finally opened it. Dylan was standing there. The smile on his face vanished the moment he saw Samuel. You're Kevin's brother? Can I help you with something? Dylan raised an eyebrow and looked past him at me, standing behind him with my backpack on, and seemed to understand. Excuse me, Mr. Lin. Could you please make way? Samuel hesitated for a moment before stepping aside. I immediately walked out. Dylan put his arm around my shoulder as we walked away. Why did you come up? I got tired of waiting downstairs and came up to see what was going on. You're still roommates with him? Yeah. Same advisor, same dorm room. Move out. I'm leaving for the other school in a week. I can handle it. I can't stand the thought of my brand new boyfriend sharing a room with his shady childhood friend. Then kick him out. Why should I be the one to leave? Let him have a single room. Done. But I brought you a gift. What is it? The deed to a condo. It's right next to campus. We'll handle the transfer tomorrow. When did you buy a condo? A long time ago. The first time I started thinking about you. Are you like this with everyone you date? Never dated anyone else. Wouldn't know. Hearing his smooth lines, I almost wanted to laugh. He was so practiced, he must have said it to a lot of people. But I didn't bother calling him out. As long as it didn't affect my interests, I couldn't be bothered to figure out how much truth was in other people's words. Years later, when I thought back on it, I realized I probably fell for Dylan because his appearance at that exact moment was so unexpected. I hadn't spoken to Samuel in a long time. Ever since I left with Dylan, he would often stare at me with a dark, brooding expression, as if something was on his mind. But whenever I caught his eye, he would awkwardly look away. The month passed quickly. When the news of my exchange student position was confirmed and spread through the lab, everyone was surprised. Samuel's expression grew even gloomier. That night, Samuel stopped me as I was heading out to eat. His eyes were dark. "Ryan, why didn't you tell me? What's going on between you and Dylan?" I cut him off. "We have no relationship anymore. Don't interrogate me. As for Dylan, he's my boyfriend." Samuel froze. I tried to leave, but he grabbed my wrist, squeezing it tightly, hard enough to leave a mark. "What do you mean he's your boyfriend? What are you talking about? How could you be? Ryan, you're kidding me, right? I've always been this way. Ryan, we're best friends. Why didn't you tell me? Didn't you think it was disgusting?" "No, Ryan, that's not what I meant. I didn't. How could I ever think you're disgusting? Ryan, stop messing around. We're best friends." Ryan. I tried to leave, but he pulled me tighter. I instinctively frowned, and then he hugged me. My entire body went rigid. "Ryan, you used to have a crush on me, didn't you?" "No." "You're lying. Your eyes always dart around when you lie. Does it even matter if I liked him? It was so long ago. It's too late for everything. Samuel, it doesn't matter anymore. I have a boyfriend, and I'm leaving. Ryan, break up with him. Date me instead. Ryan, I can do it too. I made a mistake, I'll change. We grew up together. We can be happy together." I looked up at the sky. It's too late. I pushed him away and walked off. A long time ago, I used to wonder if he would ever notice my strange feelings for him. But that's all in the past. I can't stay stuck in the same place forever. Fall arrived, and the weather started to get cold. Samuel and I barely spoke these days, but he insisted on buying breakfast for me every morning. I heard from Kevin that he and Jessica broke up last month, though I don't know the reason. Jessica came looking for him twice, but he refused to see her. At the end of the month, I left for DC and truly began living on my own. Dylan and I talked on the phone often. Besides Dylan, Kevin was also in DC. Kevin didn't go to grad school, he took over a couple of his family's small companies in DC right after graduation and was now in charge. He often complained to me about work. He'd rant about his latest screw-up, some crazy client he had to deal with, or who had stood him up. Occasionally, he'd bring up his brother, saying Dylan was 28 and still refused to get married. Kevin suspected his brother had someone in his heart, some vixen he couldn't identify. I'd awkwardly avoid his gaze and touch my nose. People fidget when they're guilty, and I'm no exception. Just as I was feeling guilty, my phone vibrated. I opened it and saw it was a call from Dylan. I made an excuse and stepped out to take the call. It connected, but the person on the other end was silent. Finally, I asked, "What's wrong?" He let out a long sigh. "I really didn't want to make this call, but I think you should know. Samuel was in a car accident." "What do you mean?" 3 days ago, Samuel got into an accident while saving a little girl. And coincidentally, the girl he saved is my distant cousin. I went to see him on behalf of my family to thank him. He asked me if he could see you. I had blocked Samuel during my 3 years of grad school. He had tried to find me, but I always avoided him, so he never managed to see me. I never expected something like this to happen. I'm just calling to let you know. Also, I don't want you to see him. After all, I'm not a generous person. I hadn't seen Samuel in 3 years. I never thought the next time I saw him would be like this, with him in a hospital bed. The moment he saw me, he squinted his eyes and smiled. "Ryan, I missed you like crazy." I walked over and sat down, and he grabbed my wrist. His eyes were red, and he lowered his head, his voice hoarse. "Buddy, long time no see. Long time no see. Buddy, how have you been?" Pretty good. That's good. Buddy, if I hadn't changed your paper back then, you wouldn't have been so angry, and you wouldn't have left me all alone, would you? I've been dreaming a lot these past few years. I often dream about when we were kids, about us going out together. Whenever I got tired of playing, I could always turn around and see you there. But when I wake up, you're gone. I'm not asking for much, buddy. Just give me one more chance. I won't make the same mistake again. Can we go back to how we were as kids? I paused, meeting Samuel's expectant gaze, and then slowly said, Samuel, we're all grown up now. His face fell with disappointment. He hung his head like a sad puppy, but then he smiled again. It's okay, buddy. We still have the future. I'll become just like I was when we were kids. One day we can be like that again, just like when we were little, going out to play together. When I left the room, I found Dylan waiting outside. He was sitting there on one of the hospital's blue plastic chairs, dressed in a top-of-the-line Italian handmade suit. He looked completely out of place. Where do you want to go for lunch? You pick. I was tired. Dylan didn't say anything, just told me to get in the car. We had been together for 3 years. The initial passion had faded into a calm quietness. After the rush of hormones, all that's left is mutual boredom. I guess that's where Dylan and I were. Especially lately, he had been visiting less and less. I was waiting for him to bring up breaking up. I had a feeling today was the day, because ever since we got in the car, his expression had been heavy. He was lost in thought, his face a kaleidoscope of emotions. One moment flushed red, the next inexplicably pale. I figured he must be thinking about another guy. I sighed and sat in the passenger seat, lost in my own melancholy. The car finally stopped in front of a huge mansion. I guessed it was some high-end private kitchen. I sat at the magnificent, opulent dining table. For some reason, there were 2 middle-aged people sitting across from me, staring at me as if I were some rare animal. It was incredibly rude. I lowered my head and sat down. The atmosphere at the table was tense. Dylan said he was going to get a bottle of wine, and for a while no one spoke. Everyone just ate in silence. Dylan returned, but the atmosphere remained just as quiet. Someone was playing the piano in the grand hall. I kept my head down and focused on my food. It wasn't until Kevin burst in, Mom, Dad, I'm home for dinner. The butler said my brother is proposing today. Do you know where they are? I want to go crash the party. Kevin pushed the door open and froze when his eyes met mine. Hey, Ryan, you're here for dinner too? What a coincidence. Bro, did you propose yet? You didn't bring her back? Where's my sister-in-law? Dylan wiped his hands and calmly replied, She's sitting to my left. To your left? Isn't that Ryan? You've got to be kidding me. Kevin let out a sharp, piercing shriek. Amid his screeching, Dylan calmly took out a velvet box, removed a ring, pulled his chair back, and knelt. Give me your hand. He spoke. I paused for a moment, then held out my hand. He slipped the ring onto my finger, then sat back down and continued eating. I looked up, bewildered. The aunt and uncle across from me were clearly just as baffled. Finally, Dylan's mother was the first to speak. Ryan, dear, how old are you? I replied politely, Ma'am, I'm 26. That's nice. Have some seafood. Dylan proposed to me in the year I thought we were going to break up. Later, I couldn't help but ask him, Why were you in such a hurry? He wrapped his arms around my waist and buried his head in my shoulder, grumbling, It's all your fault. You and Samuel just had bad timing. I was the outsider who swooped in. I was afraid if I waited a minute longer to propose, you two would rekindle things. And besides, honey, I really thought you were going to dump me that day. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I said nothing. What was there to say? That he was right, that I had been on the verge of dumping him? His intuition was spot on. I started to laugh, and he bit my neck again in mock annoyance. That winter ended quickly. I stayed at Dylan's family home until spring before going back to work.